Beaver Scouts Canada. This is Robbie's Canada badge. This is a personal adventure badge form that needs to be filled out with 3 adventures. I want to do this badge because being Canadian is something we can all be proud of. Canada has sacrificed many soldiers to ensure freedom for us and the world. It is important for us to remember these sacrifices. For my first adventure, I decided to interview John Muistard, a veteran soldier, and ask some questions about his 26-year service in Afghanistan, Libya, and Cyprus.
This is a retired military police John Muistard.
And this is Robbie from the Beaver Scouts.
How long were you in the Army?
I was in the Army a total of 26 years. I joined in 1985. I was 18 years old, and I retired a year ago. So that would have been, 2018?
What regiment were you in, and what did your suits look like?
Well, I started off with the Royal Highlanders of Canada, which was the Black Watch here in Montreal in 1985. The regimental suit, when we go parades, it was the kilt with the green, I guess you could call it the jacket. Back then, when we were going out in the field, when we worked in the field pretending we were soldiers, we had these really, really green color uniform. They looked like something like your trees outside at the very start. And eventually, yeah, it's exactly what it looked like, because we were supposed to blend into the surroundings of the woods. And eventually, we started getting into other patterns. So they started making patterns on our uniforms. It was more like a green, a brown, a little bit of black. Can't really get into detail with that because it's patented and it's also a little bit of a secret. So it made us look like, and it might sound funny, almost like pajamas, because they were very, very comfortable. Hot in the summertime, cold in the wintertime, but very comfortable. So if you put us in the surroundings like outside with a bit of dirt and we lay down, you would think we were bushes because of the way the pattern is set. So then we had that for here with trees and everything, but when we went overseas, we had tans, sort of like this color, like here on your chair, same type of patterns though, so that we can blend in to the surrounding of the sand. So it looked like my hat, basically, like this. So we'd have this kind of a pattern on it, without the Tim Hortons, but it had this type of, pattern, and that's exactly what it would look like for the summer tans when we go into the desert. And that's pretty much it. That's exactly what they look like. As for other uniforms, we had our dress uniform, which is when we go on parades, that's when we start wearing our medals. It's pretty much a green. That's all. That's pretty much as simple as that. They wanted to keep it simple for us. After I joined the Black Watch, I was there for a good 10 years. I left the Black Watch and re-enlisted with the military police. Now the military police was a little bit different. We had to go to school for it because we were going to become police officers and learn the law and everything else. Our job, there's 2 fields of military police. You had the field MPs and you had your garrison MPs. Your garrison MPs were the ones that did the tickets, and just like your MUC or the SPVM police officers here, they did the exact same thing on base. Whereas the field MPs, we took care of everything that had to do with the Army. So if the Army moved somewhere, we took care of all the movement, like vehicles, personnel. We made sure that everything inside a field, like anywhere else, as an MP would do, we took care of that. And our uniform was what we'd wear anywhere. It would be the green camouflage khaki. And with the uniforms for us, with the military police, when we're on parade, it wasn't like the Black Watch. Black Watch, you wore the kilt. Well, we wore pants and a jacket and a tie.
What guns and rifles did you use?
Okay, so I started off with the Black Watch in 1985. We had what's known as the FNC-1. That's a rifle. It was a bolt action. It It was a heavy weapon.
Did it have like a scope?
It had the scope and everything. It had a really good feel heavy. It was made out of wood and it was pretty much a nice weapon. Also, we had what was known as a small machine gun. It was about yay big.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was way back when. I was 18, 19 years old.
It's the size of a water gun.
Well, you want it that small because if you wanted to fight, say, in a small area, you didn't want something so big that when we went around a corner, your weapon would get banged around inside a house or someplace like that. So you'd have a small weapon, so you were able to move inside small areas. And it worked for us for the longest of time. And then eventually the armed forces started looking at different types of weapons. We also had what was known as a small handgun, which was the Browning. So that was basically more for your officers.
Like, for example, police officer.
Yeah, but I wasn't yet a police officer then. I was still with the Black Watch when all this new stuff was coming out. I'll get to that little part later because what's interesting is that all the new stuff that we have was designed from the old stuff. You were mentioning something about a rocket launcher. Well, we don't have a rocket launcher. We have what's called an M72. It's pretty much a rocket launcher, but it's a handheld rocket launcher.
So, but it still shoots rockets.
Yes, it does. It shoots pretty nice little rockets. And then eventually, when the Army started bringing in newer equipment, we got into what's called the C7. And it's almost a rifle. It is a rifle modified an M16. I'm not sure if you know what an M16 is. It's
I
what
think I do because.
you watch.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Canadian version of an American weapon. We've converted from what we saw from the Americans and we took it and we made it for Canadians. So I held a C7, which is the rifle, and a C6, and which is also the same thing but a little heavier. And then when later on, that was still with the Black Watch. When I got in with the military police, we started carrying what's known as a 9mm, which is a handgun.
Like a pistol?
Like a pistol, but a little stronger than a pistol.
What medals did you earn?
So what I got here are my medals, and each one is a different medal for what I've done. So the first one that you see right here is known as the Sacrifice Medal. Now this medal here is a medal that you would get when you get wounded in a I guess
Battle?
battle, exactly. All right. The second one is the TriStar, which is the medal that they give you when you go overseas and do, and it's a conflict medal. These two little ribbons on the top is how many times I've been there.
So you did it twice.
I did it twice. The one beside it is because I did it Libya. And Libya was when we opened up the embassy. This one right here beside it is the United Nations medal. It's because I worked with the United Nations. The one beside the United Nations medal is also the United Nations medal, but that's because I worked in Cyprus when we had a tour in Cyprus when it was back then. The last medal is my 12 years of being in the service. And with that 12 years, I hadn't had a chance to put this ribbon, that says that I've been over 12 years and I've been 22 years plus. And with that comes with this little tiny the pin is for being in the service 22 years plus. And that's pretty much the medals that I earned.
What conflicts did you serve in?
Well, I did 3 and technically 4. I did twice in Afghanistan. The first one was in 2008 and then my second one was in 2010. Then I went to Libya right after Mr. Gaddafi was removed from his being the king of Libya. And I also did Cyprus. Now Cyprus was a United Nations. Afghanistan was NATO because they were the charge of the conflict of NATO. And Libya was because we were there for the opening of our Canadian embassy.
Thank you for your service and everyone else who ever participated with you.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I believe that everybody else would have said the same thing. You're a good kid. Thank you.
And I have something else for you.
Wow, thank you.
So what is it, Robbie?
It's like a reward.
Yes.
It's like a medal, but it's not really a medal.
Well, of course it is a medal.
It's like a badge.
It's a badge of honor. Thank you very much.
So that's from Scouts Canada. It's a very rare badge, and we thought, what we're going to do with this badge, and we figured that this would be a great occasion to give it to someone.
Well, that's actually very nice. Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. For the second adventure, I planted 6,000 Canadian flags with Scouts Canada and other volunteers at the National Field of Honor Military Cemetery in Point Claire. I felt good because I helped Canadian veterans. For the third adventure, I took part in the 2018 Remembrance Day Parade. We stopped at the cenotaph where officials said a few words of remembrance. One of our whitetails laid a wreath at the base of the cenotaph, representing KSW Beavers. Hi everybody, my name is Scouter Pierre, and this is Robbie, a recently invested beaver. He's a bluetail. And today we're going to a Remembrance Day Parade. Remember to support your local scouting movement and support Scouts. Excited, bud? Beavers in the front, eh, bud? We're walking. Here we go, bud. Get ready.
In memory of Milton Thomas, Royal Canadian Corps of Signals, Margaret Thomas.
Adventure 1. I enjoyed interviewing John because I learned so much about what it's like to be a soldier. I also had a chance to thank him for his service. Adventure 2. It took me a long time to plant all those flags. I was happy to see so many people helping. Adventure 3. I like being in the parade. It was my first time.